And now, if you're going to make recriminations and start fights by dredging up decisions that were arrived at in the distant past, then you are definitely ready to get married. Now, Jocelyn, Danielle, and Risha have the good luck or the misfortune of having one of the projects sponsored by Shell. And Shell actually expects results. 2 days before the December design presentations, Mike Williams of Shell, old student of ours, was questioning the group about the presence of heavy metals. You know, iron, cobalt, copper, cadmium, vanadium, to which Danielle replied, "Vanna, what?" I'm glad she didn't break that out after taking a position with Shell, because knowing Mike as I do, he would have said, "Okay, you could be more fired than you are right now." But enough about that design gong show. I want to talk a bit more about how wound up Jocelyn can get, the kind of choices it's going to lead her to make. First of all, after the second midterm in reactions engineering, she sent me an email just to open a vein and give me a blow-by-blow of how each problem went. And I'm thinking, this concerns me, why? She went on about a unit conversion error and finally asked how much of a deduction she could expect, because she's a lunatic. But the most annoying aspect of the email were the profligate use of exclamation marks, because an exclamation mark shows that I may be down, but I'm still plucky, goddammit. Number 2, the PS, which was, "Please be kind," question mark and exclamation point, which I don't even know. What? Followed by, "Ahaha." Because I am, despite all appearances to the contrary, carefree and happy, and I even have a sense of humor, LOL, smiley face, smiley face. I realized I was spending quite a lot of time on Jocelyn and her group, but if you'll indulge me, I have one more bit of material which was slipped under my door this morning. Oh. It's a bit of Facebook correspondence, which provides some insight. It must have occurred not long after the final exam in reaction engineering, and it's not particularly embarrassing, but it goes to, like I said, provides some insight. So that final exam, I admit, was a real bastard. Yeah. But this, I think, reveals a little bit of the dark soul under Jocelyn's shiny exterior. So Jocelyn's first up. "Would rather die than have to write one more exam. Gross. Not a nice way to end a really tough semester." Then Aaron is the first one in. "Try writing 2, LOL." Which confirms my suspicion that if you are thinking of committing suicide and you are wavering, there's nothing like speaking with Aaron if you want to put it out. Then Danielle comes in. "Hey Burke, remember that day I told you that negativity was not permitted?" Lots of caps with Danielle. "And every time you started saying anything unchipper, I yelled at you and said, 'Burke, stop, not allowed.' Remember that? Well, I think you need the tough love again. Burke, change your status right now. Thinking life is crappy just makes it crappier. But how awesome will it be to go shopping in Calgary for nice new parkas? It's only about minus 37 there right now." Winky face. Jocelyn comes back. "Oh yay, smiley face. Super freezing weather. Looking forward to it." Then she says parenthetically, "Do you detect notes of sarcasm in that?" Yes, Jocelyn was hard to miss. You didn't even have to use the sarcasm-y face. And a later posting says, Jocelyn Burke has never experienced such brutality in final exams as she recently has. So mad. Dr. Cusack was totally unforgiving. And he was the last prof I was expecting that from. Final brutal exams, one more to go. Probably also going to be brutal. There's clearly a trend here. One word, capitals all, doomed. And then her sister, who graduated a couple years ago, chimes in, "Gina, you are so dramatic. You'll be fine." That's the typical words of the older sister. I love that. Then her buddy Danielle, "Burke!" with many exclamation points. "No Facebook hating on Cusack." Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, we all bombed that one, but Cusack is the one prof where I feel like that's okay because he won't let us all get shit grades just because of the final. And you have to admit, the midterms were gifts. Really were. Don't stress. He'll scale it. You're amazing, and I heart you. Love, smiley face. Then Gina, the sister, comes back in. Your friend is totally right. Kuzi always scales. When I took his classes, all tests and exams were brutal, but somehow we all came out with a decent mark. At least you haven't had Hewitt yet. I equate him to the devil. He is ruthless and does not scale whatsoever. And then from out of left field comes Louise Guy, who graduated a few years ago, in somber tones. Hewitt is the devil. No equating necessary. No equating. And Danielle finishes up, exactly, it'll all be okay. Not to mention that Jocelyn's mark going into the final was something ridiculous like a 97. There's no way you're not getting it. So I mention all of this mainly because it presents me in kind of a good light and I can use all the praise I can get. It's also nice to see Jocelyn's friends gathering around her providing support. And finally, it all points out the futility of worrying about this kind of stuff. Jocelyn did end up getting an A in the course after all. An A- actually, because I couldn't keep my feelings out of it entirely. Okay, so I hope I'll be forgiven for that long digression. Colin McDonald. Colin's a big guy over there, looks like a British football hooligan. He always has a black eye or a swollen lip from rugby, fighting, or just falling down. I see you've surpassed yourself tonight, Colin, and I don't even want to know. I knew Colin as the guy who was first to finish every test or exam, and then was there to say it was easy. And then proceeded to get either 85 or 35. Colin's also justly famous for getting frustrated during his design presentation and exclaiming, "Shit!" Now, it's true that Dr. Hewitt didn't explicitly say that you weren't allowed to say shit during your presentation. But it's been my experience that if you say shit during your presentation, no good can come of it. One morning, I'm told, Colin woke up and was aching all over. He thought, is this the flu? Was I working as a rodeo clown last night? He was in the dark until a friend called him to tell him he'd been hit by a car. That is hardcore. It's supposed to be a sign of a problem when you black out, or as Colin calls it, time travel. That's winning. Another sign that you might have a drinking problem is when the bartender knows your name and you've never been to that bar. Yet another sign is the fact that you drank so much that you ended up puking in Petro's bed. That wasn't as big a deal because Petro has received that treatment, that reaction in bed before, although it was the first time from a guy. Speaking of Petro, I can't really say much about him because he never comes to class and I barely know the guy. He's known to carry a flask on his person at all times. He probably has one now. He's a founding member of the Sambuca Hour. For the uninitiated, Sambuca is what you drink after you run out of lighter fluid. And Petro actually practices mixed martial arts. So that's all I'm going to say about him. Except that, just like Justin, he also enjoys watching MMA on TV. The organizations are called the UFC, Elite, Fight Kings, and there's even one called Pride. Yes, Pride. And all of them deliver hot man-on-man action. Now, Hussam is a puzzle. It's the mystery inside of an enigma. He goes out with the guys and goes wild in the clubs, but he doesn't drink and he never leaves with a girl. I mean, what is the point in going to a club? Also, Ross said that Hassan didn't know English at first, so he went to Cape Breton to learn it. How weird is that? Hassan always looks a little shy and slightly embarrassed, and he does sort of mumble when he talks, although if you listen closely you can hear what he's saying. I'm failing your course, please help me. One man's experience. Like Colin, Petro, and Sam, Ross is an alumnus of CBU, and they all like to hang out together. He loves his karaoke, which is okay. It's annoying, but it's okay. But bursting out uninvited to freestyle rap, not acceptable.
Sorry, guys.
Don't let it happen again. One thing we don't need is more white guys rapping. Not even if you wore Richard's hat.
I see what you're saying.
In the Sesame Street reversion, Ross was heard to say, C is for corrosion, and that's the mark I'm aiming for in this course. For Movember, he grew a bright red, really thick porn stash. Looked a lot like William H. Macy in Pretty Nuts. Thankfully, he did not follow through with the plan to wear a t-shirt offering free mustache rides. Lastly, Ross was known for chiming in all the time with, "That's what she said." Now, Ross, you're a funny guy, but that's not really cool. Steve Carell owns that line. And any attempt to hijack it just makes you look like a wannabe. So if you forget everything else I say tonight, please remember that last piece of advice. I want you to think about that long and hard.
Come on, Ross.
You're no fun anymore.
Come on, Ross. You're better than that, man. That's what she said.
Yeah. Jordan Barrett. Jordan Barrett lives at the tea room, and calls himself J City when he's drunk. Because he's so street. He's not afraid to get on the dance floor and get a little crazy. In a Polymer class, he described the concept of free volume as being like molecules dancing in a club. I was impressed to see Jordan at the CAD presentations last week. When I spoke to him afterwards, he said that he was there because he was a TA in the course, and that he really didn't want to be there, but the woman he's stalking was teaching the course. So what else could he do? Daniel Fekadu, really nice guy. Sometimes has driven a cab to pay the bills. Nothing funny there. He once gave Sarah a lift home when she was really drunk. And I'm sure he wasn't the first guy to take Sarah home when she was really low.